As of the time of this video, 44 seasons of the hit show Survivor have aired, with seasons 45 and 46 coming within the next year. So it's that time again to update our spoiler-free rankings for every season. For those who haven't seen all of these seasons, you can kind of treat this as a guide as to what to watch and what to avoid. Nothing will be spoiled, with the exception of 2 seasons, and I will let you know when we reach them. For this video, I had you all fill out a survey I posted on my Patreon and on my community tab here on YouTube, where you simply voted whether you liked a season or didn't like a season, and if you liked it, then that season was given 1 point, and if you didn't like it, then a point was taken away. And at the end of the survey, I asked what your favorite and least favorite seasons were, and by picking a season as your favorite, you gave it 2 extra bonus points, and by saying a season is your least favorite, you took 2 points away. Now with that explanation out of the way, let's start with the bottom of the barrel. Number 44, Season 5, Survivor Thailand. This one seems promising on its face. The location of Thailand is beautiful and unique, plus we just came off the heels of a show-defining season where the strategy took a big step forward in Season 4, but Season 5 regresses in that department, and the cast is essentially trash. How did Survivor screw up something they had done so well for the past 4 seasons? I have no idea, but this season is straight up uncomfortable at times, and when it isn't, it's just boring, which is probably the biggest sin you can have. Survivor Thailand scores a whopping negative 49.1%. Number 43, Season 39, Survivor Island of the Idols. If it were up to me, this would be the absolute worst season of all time. Thailand had some uncomfortable moments, but Island of the Idols cranks that up to the point where you'll be baffled how they let it go on as long as they do. Some will defend the season and be like, oh, outside of those big issues, you know, it's fine. It's a good season, actually. And to that I say it's like trying to eat cereal out of a bowl with a turd on it. I don't care how big the turd is. The cereal is not going in my mouth. Unfortunately, this has the long-term effect of Survivor making anyone who is slightly villainous not. Like, they try to make every player a hero from here on out, which sucks. The show also screws up by adding on a twist to the season that hampers a lot of players' games. Add on a mostly lackluster cast, and you get another hot trash season. Also, watching this one will spoil 3 other seasons, which are much better than this one, with the 2 players they have returning. Survivor Island of the Idols scores a negative 15.8%. Number 42, Season 24, Survivor One World. Thankfully, this season avoids the trap the last 2 seasons fell into with uncomfortable moments, though there is at least one here. It's not nearly as egregious though. Instead, this season is just top to bottom boring. The twist of One World itself is cool, with 2 tribes living on one beach while competing with each other, but they quickly abandon this, and from there it only gets worse and worse. The predictability is horrible, and for some reason they experimented with this new color grading technique this season, and it's just for the season, and frankly, it doesn't look like Survivor. No seasons are spoiled by this one, so you can watch this season, but even those who witnessed it once want their money back, so keep that in mind. Survivor One World scores a 4.2%. Number 41, Season 22, Redemption Island. This one is all about the 2 returnees they bring back going head to head in a glorious strategic battle for who is the best. Those 2 being here does mean that 3 other seasons are spoiled as a result, 3 better seasons I might add, so keep that in mind. Oh, and there are other players on the season, but they're not really important. Oh, and there's also said Redemption Island twist that gets many fans upset. It's a mechanic that sees the voted off players have a chance to get back into the game due to challenges, favoring certain types of players, obviously. It sounds okay, but in execution, it ate up a lot of screen time each episode to the detriment of the entire season story. Wow. Survivor Redemption Island scores a 16.2%. Number 40, Survivor 41. What do you do coming off the heels of an all-winter season with a year-long break in between due to COVID causing the fan base to have higher hopes than before? Well, Survivor decided to give us Season 41, a show that starts off with Jeff saying, "Screw you all, I am making this more about me. I will talk to the camera like you're a bunch of children. I will change phrases I've been saying for 40 seasons and act like it's for the greater good." And every episode will be stuffed to the brim with advantages and nonsense. And the show is now only 26 days instead of 39. Fun! A lot of this season felt like a slap in the face to so many fans, and I feel bad for the cast that aren't even that bad, but they got stuck with the nonsense and a bad job by the editors to tell a coherent, satisfying story. Some online will say the season is underrated and better than the all-winter season, and those people are crazy. Survivor 41 scores a 16.3%. Number 39, Season 21, Survivor Nicaragua. This season is in a similar position to Survivor 41. They both come hot off the heels of a beloved returnee season, but in their own way, they falter. Somehow the show gets visually uglier, has a cast full of models who seemingly don't know how to play Survivor, and after a while, most fans accept this is a season that's kind of like, whatever. You know, what happens when 20-year-olds face off against 40-year-olds in challenges? Gee, I don't know. Don't get me wrong, it's nothing too terrible or offensive, but you know, it's like a movie you see once and go, yeah, that's fine. I don't ever need to see it again. Survivor Nicaragua scores a 26.4%. And quickly, I would like to thank the patrons for supporting this channel and making it possible to do huge videos like this one. If you would like to join them in supporting Once Upon an Island and pick what videos I make, along with watching everything I make weeks and even months early, then check out the link in the description. Thank you for your support. Now let's slide into the next part of the rankings I am calling It's Okay, I Guess. Number 38, Season 36, Survivor Ghost Island. This season has such a cool premise, make an island where old advantages and idols that were misplayed are back and looking for redemption. Can these new players reverse the curse or will they fall victim to it? It's a great idea, with lackluster execution and a boring cast. Like seriously, I remember 4 people from the season and one of them is not fondly remembered, whereas the other 3 make everything all about them. The storytelling here is so bad and uneven, and Ghost Island itself has the option to be absolutely nothing if the player chooses, or if they like smash an urn and says, yeah, no game today. Wow, so much fun. Survivor Ghost Island scores a 34%. Number 37, Season 30, Survivor Worlds Apart. This one is polarizing. It features a cast of villains who are petty, mean, and sometimes goofy, but there's a bit of bullying in here as well. The actual theme of the season is splitting up everyone based on whether they are a white collar worker, a blue collar worker, or a hippie. It's not a bad idea, but after a while it is a non-factor and the story eventually becomes all about whether you like one player or not. I mean, I really like the one player, but I totally get why this one isn't for everyone. Survivor Worlds Apart scores a 38.7%. Number 36, Season 23, Survivor South Pacific. This one takes that Redemption Island formula of Season 22 and does it again. Only this time, the cast knows about it. They know how it's gonna play out, they know how it's gonna work, so they take advantage. They all come to play and the returnees add a lot more watchability to this season than they did in the prior one. Only one season's end result will be spoiled. However, this season does get dark in a way that might leave some viewers uncomfortable and basically shatters the fun reputation of one returnee. The Redemption Island twist actually factors into the story and gameplay this time in a positive manner that will have you surprised. Survivor South Pacific scores a 47.1%. Number 35, Season 14, Survivor Fiji. Is so boring. Truly nothing interesting happens until like the very end. There are maybe 3 interesting players out of the entire 19-player cast, and even then, the season is predictable and dull solely due to a cast of recruits who seemingly had never watched the show before. Survivor Fiji scores a 47.3%. Number 34, Season 35, Survivor Heroes vs. Healers vs. Hustlers should not be this low. I mean, it is, and that's in large part due to a surprise twist that no one, not us, and definitely not the players, saw coming that appears to be on its face completely unfair and completely changes the result of the season. No spoilers, of course, but what could have been an average season of Survivor dips a bit due to that one production blunder. But other than that, the theme of heroes, healers, and hustlers feels uninspired, and while there are some standouts on the cast, it's fine. Survivor Heroes vs. Healers vs. Hustlers scores a 47.4%, and now we move on to the part of the list I call good but not great. Number 33, Season 26, Caramone, aka Fans vs. Favorites 2, asked the question we were all wondering the first time they did this twist. What if the fans were a bunch of recruits, and what if the favorites were a bunch of returning people we didn't really want to see again, with the exception of like 2 or 3? Well, you get a season that at times is brilliant and at other times it's horrendous. It's a tale of 2 seasons in a sense, as the pre-merge can be dark, but the post-merge, it's a lot of fun. I find it to be an enjoyable watch, and it is the closing of the dark ages of Survivor, but I get why so many don't care for it. Survivor Caramone scores a 50.4%. Number 32, Season 38, Edge of Extinction. This one takes the Redemption Island twist from earlier and puts it on steroids. What if all those people who got voted off live on one island together and get 2 shots to get back in the game? It's an idea that needed more screen time in my opinion, as the episodes are too short for this nonsense and the main game, but oh man, is this season ranked way too low. Some seasons are best on the first time being watched and others are better the second time through, and this is a season that definitely benefits from the rewatch. After the first time, time, you're gonna be like, what the heck did I just witness? But the second time, it's like, holy crap, is this secretly a masterpiece season? I personally fall into the latter camp. Mind you, there are 4 returning players here that will spoil their respective seasons, unfortunately. Survivor Edge of Extinction scores a 50.8%. Number 31, Season 11, Survivor Guatemala. This is an amazing location. I love it. I mean, clearly everyone is suffering from living there, but that's only good for me. The cast here is solid, and the 2 returning players from Season 10 add a lot to the story being told. It can be fun, but unfortunately the pre-merge slogs. The challenges eat up way too much screen time. The tribe swap still confuses me, but at least I know who is definitely not an NFL quarterback. Nope, he's just a simple landscaper. This season also introduces advantages in challenges and hidden immunity idols, complete game-changing items. Survivor Guatemala scores a 55.2%. Number 30, Season 34, Survivor Game Changers. This one asked the question, what if our season had half returning players who are truly game changers and half returning players who you might have remembered played Survivor one time? Wow, what a horrible idea. I mean, the first half of the season is fun, but the back end is a slog due to this poor casting choice. They would have been better off just making a fans versus favorites 3 in my opinion. This season brings a new format to Final Tribal Council that some love and some hate and most don't care about. And there are advantages galore, and I mean that. There are advantages galore. This season sets the stage for Survivor to just flood the show with advantages, which is disappointing. Survivor Game Changer scores a 56.5%. Number 29, Survivor 43. This season takes everything wrong about the new era of Survivor and attempts to fix it. I mean, they tone down the excessive advantages somewhat, they try to have some fun in the storytelling, and this season straight up has some jaw-dropping, what the heck just happened strategic moves. So how did it fall this low? Well, not many people like how the story was told. Of course, some recency bias is in play. Give it some time, I bet you this one moves up next year. It felt a bit like Survivor 41 in the storytelling department, and it really doesn't help when the preview for the season promised us at least one good villain, and then the actual show decided to edit out all their villainous moments. Like, what the heck? Island of the Idols really messed up this show from ever having a good villain again, didn't they? It's a solid season, but Survivor 43 scores a 63.5%. Now we move on to the part of the list I call It's Like Pizza. Number 28, Season 10, Survivor Palau. This one is amazing the first time you watch it. In fact, that first watch may even have you rank it as a top 10 or a top 5 season. After all, they're in beautiful Palau, the war theme permeates everything, the challenges are fun to watch, and the strategy on display is brand new in many cases. However, this one doesn't hold up on a rewatch. Once the surprise of everything is gone, Palau becomes a slog at times. So is it worth watching? Absolutely. The first time, especially for Wanda. Survivor Palau scores a 71.6%. Number 27, Season 4, Survivor Marquesas. This one comes in the wake of 9/11. Survivor had planned to shoot their 4th season in the country of Jordan, but then were forced to pivot hard to a location they were not ready for, and in some ways it showed, especially when they do a kite flying challenge. Marquesas is beautiful, but sometimes you can see how this is clearly someone's private island, and the shortened time to edit the season affects the overall story as well. It ain't bad, the cast is fun, and those first 7 episodes are wild, but the second half of the season is slow, and after a while this location really eats up everyone in a way the show had not planned for. Thankfully, some big strategic moves take place that really open up the strategy of the show in a way that they had not seen before. And overall, Survivor Marquesas scores a 73.1%. Number 26, Season 9, Survivor Vanuatu. Even at this spot on the list, it should be so much higher. The volcanic setting is wonderful, and like Survivor 41 in Nicaragua, it comes hot off the heels of a huge returnee season, but in this case, it delivers. After episode 4, I get it. I get why people don't get through this whole season. The first 4 episodes are boring, but once the earth-shattering tribe swap happens, this season only gets better and better until it climaxes at Final Tribal in a way that clearly annoys the host but has us as an audience laughing our tails off. Survivor Vanuatu scores a 75.2%, but it is amazing and demands a watch by everybody. Number 25, Season 19, Survivor Samoa. This one rides or dies on one player, possibly the most dynamic player of all time, but your thoughts on them will shape your feelings on this season. In some ways, I think this is the perfect season to start fans off with, as it shows exactly what Survivor is all about, but in other ways, it could screw them up forever and hope for something else. Survivor goes to Samoa, which is very pretty, but that is quickly overshadowed by some of the wildest storytelling we've ever seen that almost feels like a prequel to Season 20, and I love it. I get why others don't, but it's a top 3 season for myself. Survivor Samoa scores a 76.8%. Number 24, Season 6, Survivor the Amazon. This one tries to correct the mistakes of the horrendous bottom tier Thailand season by being fun. What a new concept. I mean, the fun of this season's twist, men versus women, doesn't age well if you want to look at it through modern lenses, but man, is this show clearly having fun, and so are the players. Not only is it unpredictable, but there are massive strides made this season in the strategy department, and heck, they're in the flippin' Amazon. It's a beautiful, iconic location. So why does it fall this low on the list? Well, the story favors some people over others, and that causes a detriment to the season-long tail. That's all I can say without spoiling. Survivor the Amazon scores a 77.5%. Number 23, Season 1, Survivor Borneo. This one is so hard to compare to everything else here. The cast literally had no idea what they were getting into, and so they kind of just made it up as they went. Whereas almost all the other seasons feel cinematic, this one feels like a documentary. And if it weren't for an excellent cast of characters, the season would be dull. I mean, so many production decisions here would not fly today, but the cast of 16 players are so entertaining that it kind of doesn't matter. It feels raw, authentic, and answers the question of what does a pure Survivor season look like when no one knows what's gonna happen next. Survivor Borneo scores a 79%. Number 22, Season 8, Survivor All-Stars. This one is the climax to the old school era of the show, old school being the first 8 seasons. A cast of 18 returning players from the biggest social experiment come together, and wow, they're salty. I mean, the first 7 seasons minus Thailand were fun, but here, everyone's pretty salty. Alliances people try to make preseason come to a head here, and yeah, it's dark. All-Stars starts off fun, but it ends up dark. I mean, not dark in a way like you feel like you need to take a shower afterwards, just darker in a way that makes you feel like you need a good laugh. Because yeah, this is some of the most cutthroat gameplay, and it's so personal. It's cruel, and many people love this. Survivor All-Star scores a 79.6%. Number 21, Season 2, Survivor the Australian Outback. This season is what happens when Survivor has to follow up their surprise hit in Borneo, and they have probably more money than they know what to do with. The cast of players here are trying to play it up for America after seeing what audiences thought of some of the players of the prior season, so in many ways it's kind of like they're hamming it up. The Australian Outback is a unique setting, and the story being told here is very entertaining for the first 2/3 of the season. Survivor the Australian Outback scores an 80.2%, and now we move to the next part of the list called Any Day of the Week. Number 20, Survivor 44. This is the most recent season as of the time of this video, so some recency bias is to be expected here. As for me, in many aspects, it's a step back from season 43. So how did it land higher on the list? Simple, and this goes for every good season. The characters. People we as an audience care about make up for any flaws a season has, and they certainly do that here. Is the end result utterly predictable? Yes. Are there any jaw-dropping moments? No. Was it all overly hyped by Jeff Probst in the preseason as some sort of gold standard season? Very much so. Survivor 44 is just okay to me, but that's because I desire the unpredictableness of my seasons, and that is not at all on display here. Survivor 44 scores an 82.7%. Number 19, Season 29, Survivor San Juan del Sur. This is a season full of all new players, and I don't get why people think it's good and not dull. So, Survivor San Juan del Sur scores an 83%. Number 18, Season 3, Survivor Africa. This season takes what Survivor did so well in its first 2 iterations and capitalizes on them, but it goes even harder on the survival aspects. Do they have a clean water source? No. Do they have shade? Not really. Are there literal lions circling the camp at night trying to eat them? Yes! Combine that with an eclectic cast of characters, a game-changing twist, a lot of strategic decisions made solely for personal reasons, and you have one compelling season of Survivor that is fun on a rewatch. Survivor Africa scores an 83.3%. Number 17, Survivor 42. This is the best season of the new era, which is wild considering it has all the same issues of Survivor 41 in terms of production, twists, and Jeff making it more about him. But the show clearly did a massive edit overhaul after the fan backlash to season 41 because anything audiences hated in 41 were minimized a ton here, and anything we liked they tried to highlight. Seasons are filmed back to back, so they had no idea when filming this one that we would hate 41. And of course, editing can only go so far, as seen in one tribal council where they just had no choice. But the decision to not show any aftermath to that tribal, I think says it all. Survivor 42 would have been a hot mess without the fan backlash, and due to the re-edit, they turned out a solid season of the show. Survivor 42 scores an 83.9%. Number 16, Season 32, Survivor Go Wrong. This one feels like the end of an era in a way. It's the last season to be filmed in somewhere other than Fiji. It features legit villains that the show doesn't try and hide, and it doesn't stuff the game with advantages that confuse audiences. The cast is solid, the storyline is good, and the intensity of what this cast goes through makes for compelling TV along with good strategy. Survivor Go Wrong scores an 87.4%. Number 15, Season 33, Survivor Millennials vs. Gen X. This one is such a dumb idea on its face, especially when the host loves the idea of constantly comparing the generations in a time when everyone is trying to blame millennials for everything. After a while, the generational difference goes away and we just get a good season of the show with a solid story and a general fun-loving feel. Survivor Millennials vs. Gen X scores an 88.4%. Number 14, Season 12, Survivor Panama/Exile Island. This one reminds me of Survivor 44 in many ways. Is the end result predictable? Yes. Is the gameplay fun to watch? Not really. But the characters single-handedly make the season for so many fans. You have underdogs, growth arcs, rivalries, goofballs, and crazy villains. I think the season is ugly to look at and boring the first time through, but the rewatch is where the value lies as you start finding yourself looking forward to certain moments and quoting certain lines. And how have I not mentioned the big twist this season? Exile Island. It's a place where one player is forced to live at for almost every episode, along with a super hidden immunity idol that's hidden there that can be played after the votes have already been read. Survivor Exile Island scores an 88.7%. Number 13, Season 25, Survivor Philippines. This one sees Survivor go to the Philippines, obviously. They bring back 3 players who were medically evacuated in their prior season. And are these players good at Survivor? No, but that's what makes this one work. 3 big character returnees mixed in with 15 new players causes a memorable season full of twists and turns, and me learning that if I win $1 million, then I just know that it's only 600 grand after Obama takes it. Who knew Survivor would teach me about taxes? In all seriousness, it's a great season that scores an 89.6%, and now we move on to the seasons I call love at first watch. Forget you, go home, goodbye. Number 12, Season 17, Survivor Gabon. This one seems to inch its way up everyone's list year after year. The more time that passes, the more people understand this is a beautiful train wreck. It's not strategic, it's strictly personal. So many decisions are made on emotions and not logic, and that only makes it more entertaining for us. This season takes place in Africa, albeit a different part than Season 3, and for the first time the show is in high definition. This is a season that only gets better on rewatches, and so Survivor Gabon scores a 90.3%. Number 11, Season 27, Survivor Blood vs. Water. This one is very interesting. The premise is very unique. Only one season after the show screws up Fans vs. Favorites 2, they decide to essentially do an unofficial Fans vs. Favorites 3. Only this time, the fans are relatives of the returning favorite players, and wow, what a brilliant idea. Can we do this one again? I mean, they do in San Juan del Sur, but that one was so boring, and there was no returnees that season. This one works brilliantly because we're already invested in half of the cast, and the return of Redemption Island works its best here with all the built-in family drama. Not only does this format shed a new light on people we know, but it adds constant drama and the thought that maybe, just maybe, someone could vote out their own mom, but we all know only a hardened criminal would commit such an act. Survivor Blood vs. Water scores a 90.8%. Number 10, Season 13, Survivor Cook Islands. The premise is let's make 4 tribes divided by race. And that right there should have gotten the show canceled. Indeed, it did cause a lot of sponsors to drop, but screw it. It worked out. I mean, it shouldn't have, but wow, it did. As always, the players make it work and cause one of the best seasons top to bottom, full of intrigue, drama, and a very close finish that has people still debating who should have won it all. Survivor Cook Island scores a 93.4%. Number 9, Season 18, Survivor Tocantins. This season did something not many seasons post All-Stars dared to do. Have 16 players on 2 tribes with no tribe swaps and basically no idols. You know, like a classic season of the show. The casting here swung for the fences on some risky players that really could have blown up on their faces, and it doesn't. It pays off big time. We see one of the best winter games of all time, underdogs, morons, and one dragon-slaying soccer coach. That will make more sense once you see it. If this were my personal list, this season would be in my top 3. Survivor Tocantins scores a 97.9%. Number 8, Season 15, Survivor China. This one has me wishing Survivor had made the jump to HD here instead of Gabon a year later. The location is stunning and the theme is leaned into so hard, it's impossible to forget. Add on a cast of almost all villains, lots of fun gameplay, drama for days, and you get a season of the show people will always recommend to watch because it just plays out so well. Survivor China scores a 99.6%, and now we move on to the cream of the crop, aka the best seasons of all time. Number 7, Season 40, Survivor, Winners at War. Obviously, there will be spoilers. The entire cast are winners. I can't show footage without spoiling something. So skip to number 6 to avoid those spoilers. Believe it or not, the show did it. Those sons of guns, they did it. They got 20 winners on one season to compete for $2 million. The casting is great, how could it not be? Even though most of us wish Island of the Idols hadn't screwed up the return of one certain winner. And let's imagine just how much better it would all be if they hadn't overstuffed the season full of advantages and twists. It was clearly a precursor in many ways to the new era of the show, but season 40 thrives on its characters and hurts when production seemingly throws in those twists haphazardly, which happens more often than I care to admit. Thankfully, it all works out and makes for epic television. You may be excited hearing all of this. I mean, a season of all winners, gotta go check it out, right? Please don't. It spoils about half of the show's run, and I would hold off as long as you can from watching it. Survivor Winners at War scores a 105.7%. Number 6, Season 7, Survivor Pearl Islands. This one is all about pirates. The theme permeates everything, like China, and causes many creative decisions that help the season and the narrative, even when they probably shouldn't have. It says a lot that there are some dumb choices here, and yet it still all works out. Dumb luck can be fun like that sometimes. The characters are larger than life, the opening task is crazy to give the players that kind of freedom, and everything just oozes fun and like the show is swinging for the fences and hitting a grand slam. Survivor Pearl Island scores a 107.2%. Number 5, Season 37, Survivor David vs. Goliath. This one wasn't even supposed to be good, supposedly. Rumor has it that production thought this would be a mid-season that fans wouldn't care about. Well, that isn't the case at all. And a shocking turn of events, by having no crap twists that plague everything and just picking a theme that makes sense for casting, unlike heroes versus healers versus hustlers, you can have an excellent season. Trust your cast. They'll do the work for you. They really nailed it here, and it's a shame that as of the time of this video, we haven't had a non-winner returnee season to see some of these people come back and play again. If it were up to me, this would be a top 3 season. Survivor David vs. Goliath scores a 108%. Number 4, Season 16, Survivor Micronesia. This is the original fans versus favorites, and despite the questionable nature of calling the fans, pretty much everyone is a big character and comes to play. There are many twists and turns, though most are due to unpredictable events that the show has to try and adjust to. And there's one big strategic play that people still talk about to this day, 16 years later. Watching seasons 12 through 15 prior to this one make it all the more sweeter as a payoff to many storylines. So, Survivor Micronesia scores a 108.9%. Number 3, Season 31, Survivor Cambodia. This one features an entire cast of people who never won and were voted on by fans to get a second chance, so skip to number 2 on this list to avoid any spoilers. After a very middling Worlds Apart season, people were glad to see the show finally give us a chance to pick the cast, and it worked. I mean, it worked so well. Cambodia itself is beautiful, and a lot of good creative ideas were implemented this season. Strategy takes a big step forward in a way that is good and bad for the future of the show, and the storyline works as a follow-up to so many stories from past seasons. Survivor Cambodia scores a 111.9%. Number 2, Season 28, Survivor Cagayan. This one is great, and I think it gained a lot of favoritism due to being on Netflix along with the number 1 season on this list, but that is not to take away from the brains, brawn, and beauty of it all. Cagayan drops a shark into the tank and they didn't even know it until it was too late. The results of this season literally send tidal waves that affect the show to this day, and that isn't to mention the phenomenal casting, storytelling, and choices by production that somehow work out and create one of the best seasons of all time, as Survivor Cagayan scores a 125.7%. Number 1, Season 20, Survivor Heroes vs. Villains. This is an all-returnee season that only lands this high due to how many past seasons and storylines it connects to. Don't get me wrong, it works well on its own, but it excels when realizing how many layers this onion has that dates all the way back to Season 2. Everything about the season works, and the more I rewatch it, the more I connect dots to the past seasons and realize, wow, The show picked basically the perfect cast to return, and by staying mostly out of the way and not adding in dumb twists, the season shines. But once again, like Winners at War, try to hold off from watching this until you've watched the seasons prior to it. It makes it so much better. Survivor Heroes vs. Villains scores a 128.6%. So I want to know, do you agree with these rankings by the fans? Did they get it right or did they get it wrong? Thanks for watching, and doubly thanks for liking and subscribing. See you all next time.